And it's not that there's something wrong with the police force. It's because they may not be fully defunding the police, but they're underfunding the police, and they're certainly not backing them. And then when the cops do their job, you got the prosecutor who won't prosecute. You got this Mondami, he's running for office in New York, and he wants to eliminate misdemeanors. Well, that's a way to eliminate crime. You eliminate a whole category of crime. You know what? Misdemeanors are not crimes anymore. Oh, wow. Look at the record reduction in crime. It's unbelievable. It's insane. Now let's turn to internal security, the crime that's taking place in our cities. I might remind you that Donald Trump could just let it go. He could just let it go like every other Democrat has and every other Republican has, but he doesn't want to. Washington, D.C. has federalized the police force. It's the federal city. He hasn't done anything unconstitutional. That's why no lawsuit's going to matter there. And the mayor, who's been utterly incompetent, yesterday, today, last week, has been saying things extremely complimentary. Most recently, that she hopes the National Guard will continue to be there to back up the Metropolitan Police Force. These are good cops. They haven't been able to do what they want to do. And of course, they still have to deal with the court system there, which is a disaster. They have a great prosecutor. You may have heard of her, Judge Jeanine Pirro. It's the federal city. She's the federal prosecutor. That's how it works. But we had in Chicago over Labor Day weekend, over those 3 days, 37 shootings, 58 casualties, including 8 dead. And the response is twofold. Statistics show that we're improving. We have less crime than we had in fill in the blank. 58 people shot? I'd say that's too many. I don't care what your damn statistics are. New York, they do the same thing. Record low. I was reading this in the New York Post. Record low crime, except for murder and rape. Excuse me? Except for murder and rape? Well, that's not a good exception. And you see this in all these cities. Why? Because the Democrats don't give a damn about the citizenry. They pretend they do. They're very good at propaganda. They always have the news media in these cities strongly behind them, because they're Democrats too, as I discussed in another book on freedom of the press. But it's the truth. That's why the schools are rotten, but they won't allow kids to go to schools outside of their neighborhood. They don't believe in school choice because they're bought and paid for by the teachers' unions. They're anti-cop. They're pro-criminal. That's why they want felons to vote. That's why Bernie Sanders said, even if you're on death row for mass murder, it should still have the right to vote. These crazy. So these cities are deteriorating. They're deteriorating. You got Soros prosecutors who won't prosecute. You have left-wing Democrat judges who won't incarcerate. And they're falling apart. Then you have floods of illegal aliens coming into these cities. So the people there really are suffering. They really are suffering. So you might say, well, why do they vote for these people? Because these people, the Democrats, are always the ones saying, we're going to make sure that we provide you with this, we provide you with this, provide you with this. And the Republicans either aren't heard or they're running on a totally different agenda. But whatever the reason is, that's the case. So the president says in Washington, D.C., this is the federal city. People come here. We've got record carjackings all over. I don't care what the statistics say. I'm going to fix this. The man fixes it in 10 days. Everybody thinks these things can't be resolved in a positive. He does the border in 3 weeks, 5 weeks, whatever it was. He does Washington, and then he's looking at Chicago, which really is a murder capital. But don't worry, murder's going down. I mean, you got like over 200 murders a year. What is that? Do you know in this country, give or take, depending on the year, we have about 16,000 murders a year? A year. So what do you have in 10 years? 160,000 people murdered? Most of it is young blacks killing young blacks. Drug-related, gang-related. Those are the facts. So you might say, what is a billionaire Republican president, who you may notice isn't black, why does he care about these things? The answer should be, this man's compassionate. He's trying to address these things where nobody else has the guts. And what is he having to do? Fight the entire Democrat Party and Democrat establishment. Because they run the cities. These are one-party cities. In some of these states, like California now, are one-party states. And this guy is compassionate, Trump. He's looking at this saying, no, 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 you can't keep this up. And you have people in the neighborhood, some of whom have the courage to speak out. They're wearing Trump hats. They're saying, bring in the National Guard. We need help. And it's not that there's something wrong with the police force. Sometimes they're these lousy chiefs, you know, who are handpicked because they're lousy. But sometimes you actually have chiefs who are trying to do their job and they're soon dismissed, replaced with another, soon dismissed. It's because they may not be fully defunding the police, but they're underfunding the police, and they're certainly not backing them. And then when the cops do their job, you got the prosecutor who won't prosecute. You got this Mondami, he's running for office in New York, and he wants to eliminate misdemeanors. Well, that's a way to eliminate crime. You eliminate a whole category of crime. You know what? Misdemeanors are not crimes anymore. Oh, wow. Look at the record reduction in crime. It's unbelievable. It's insane. So the President of the United States is saying, I'm not without tools to do something about this. I'm going to push the edge of the envelope. We don't have a federal police force to send into these places, nor should we. But we have the National Guard to back up the cops and to send in there and to protect these people. And so the very mayors who are allowing this to occur, the deaths, the mayhem, are saying that Trump wants to militarize the cities. They want you to think this is the Soviet Union, you know, rolling tanks into Hungary or something. No. The President of the United States using the National Guard to enforce the law. Is that militarization? Well, let me ask a question I asked on radio yesterday, and I posted on my social sites yesterday. In 1957, when Dwight Eisenhower federalized the National Guard that was being used by Governor Orville Faubus of Arkansas, he put the National Guard in front of the door of Central High School to prevent 9 black kids from going to high school in opposition to the Brown versus Board education decision, the integration of public schools. Now, these kids weren't bused into the area. They were from the community, but they were segregated, these schools. And so he put the National Guard there. What did Eisenhower do? He federalized the National Guard. So the National Guard literally turned around, escorted those 9 black students into the high school. The National Guard stayed there for a period of time, several days, to ensure the safety of those kids, until Faubus agreed to allow the local police to protect the kids, which he eventually did. Did Eisenhower militarize our schools? He used the National Guard for domestic purposes. Did he militarize Central High School? This talk is so ridiculous. And so Donald Trump is saying people are being murdered at record numbers in Chicago. We see it every damn weekend. So if I want to use the National Guard to back up the cops, what does the mayor do? He signs an executive order that the cops are not to work with the National Guard, to make it harder for the president to help protect the citizenry. Now, this isn't a constitutional answer to the complaints about federalizing, quote unquote, the situation by using the National Guard, but let me ask you something. In the lead up to the Civil War, a few decades before, when James Madison considered the father of the Constitution because he was involved in every aspect of it during the Constitutional Convention, when he said that states are not free to leave the Union, he based that on the fact that once a state became part of the United States, the citizen was a citizen of the state and the United States. That citizen had all the rights and protections of the federal Constitution. And a state, once in, did not have the power to leave and thereby remove citizenship in the United States from its citizens. That's what Madison argued. Makes a hell of a lot of sense to me. Obviously, the South didn't buy that, but you understand. Trump, I don't think he's sitting there thinking about what James Madison did. I think he is sitting there thinking about, these are American citizens who are getting shot, who are getting killed, who are getting violently brutalized in other ways. They're American citizens. I'm the president. I feel like I have some responsibility. I think that's what drives the man. His compassion and his belief in that. It will be more difficult to use the National Guard in Chicago than it is in Washington, D.C., because Washington is in the Constitution as the federal city. If he sends the National Guard in, which he can, the problem is, if the mayor doesn't allow the police to work with the National Guard, it becomes very, very difficult. I guarantee you they're trying to figure that out at the White House right now. I guarantee you they're trying to figure out at the White House now, in conjunction with the Department of Justice lawyers, as well as White House counsel, on the best way to handle this, because I think Trump definitely wants to address this.
For all this and much more, sign up for Levin TV.